A luxury restaurant in Manhattan suddenly turns into a battlefield when three gunmen storm in for an attack. But one man stands up, not a bodyguard, not a police officer, just a seemingly invisible waiter. In seconds, he takes down all three attackers with impossible precision. That man is Ethan Cole, a single father trying to bury his past. But the past never stays buried. Follow this story to the end. Hit like and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has traveled. And now, let's begin Ethan Cole's journey. The crystal chandelier above table 7 threw fractured light across the white tablecloth, catching the edge of a wine glass, the curve of a silver fork. Ethan Cole moved through the dining room like he'd been doing it his whole life. Shoulders loose, eyes down, a white towel draped over his left forearm. He refilled water glasses without being asked, cleared plates before diners noticed they were finished. Invisible. That was the trick. Stay invisible long enough, and people forgot you were even there. He'd been working at Aurelius for 6 months, long enough to know which tables tipped well, which ones sent food back just to feel important. Long enough to memorize the floor plan, the exits, the blind spots in the security cameras. Old habits. The kind that didn't fade even when you wanted them to. Table 7 was a businessman in his 50s, charcoal suit, no tie. Damian Cross. Ethan had seen his face in the financial section of the Times. Billionaire. Tech mogul. The kind of man who owned buildings instead of living in them. Across from him sat a woman in her early 30s, dark hair pulled back tight, navy blazer, no jewelry except a slim watch. She wasn't eating, just taking notes on a tablet, nodding when Cross spoke, her expression unreadable. Ethan topped off Cross's water. The man didn't look up. "Victoria, I want this Portland acquisition finalized by Friday," Cross said. His voice was low, clipped, the kind of voice used to being obeyed. "Friday's aggressive," the woman replied. Her tone was calm, measured. "Their legal team is stalling on the environmental clause." "Then unstall them." "I'll handle it." Ethan stepped back, turned toward the kitchen. He was 3 steps away when the front door opened. He heard it before he saw it. The scrape of the door against the frame, too fast, too hard. Then the footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, wrong. He'd spent enough years listening to footsteps to know when someone was walking and when someone was hunting. He turned. 3 men. Black jackets, hands in pockets, eyes scanning the room like they were counting exits. The host, a college kid named Jeremy, stepped forward with a smile that died the second the lead man shoved him aside. Jeremy hit the floor hard, his tablet skittering across the marble. The dining room went silent. Ethan's hand tightened on the water pitcher. The lead man pulled a gun, compact, black, no suppressor. The other 2 followed. Diners screamed, chairs scraped. A woman near the window dropped her purse, her hands going to her mouth. "Nobody moves," the lead man said. His voice was rough, accented, Eastern European, maybe Russian. He scanned the room, then locked onto table 7. "Damian Cross, get up." Cross didn't move. His hand stayed flat on the table, but his jaw tightened. Victoria shifted in her seat, her body angling slightly in front of him. Subtle, protective. "I said get up." The man raised the gun, aiming it at Cross's chest. Ethan set down the pitcher. He moved before he thought, before the part of his brain that had spent 2 years trying to forget kicked in and reminded him why he didn't do this anymore. He closed the distance in 4 strides, fast but not reckless, his body already running the angles. The lead man's peripheral vision caught him too late. Ethan grabbed the man's wrist, twisted hard, and drove his palm into the guy's elbow. The joint bent the wrong way with a wet crack, and the gun clattered to the floor. The man screamed. Ethan didn't stop. He swept the guy's legs, dropped him face first into the marble, and drove a knee into his spine. 1 second. That's all it took. The second gunman turned, weapon rising. Ethan grabbed a chair, swung it in a tight arc. It connected with the man's arm, sent the gun spinning. The man lunged forward, throwing a wild punch. Ethan ducked under it, stepped inside his guard, and buried an elbow into his ribs. The man staggered. Ethan grabbed the back of his head, slammed it into the nearest table. The impact shattered a plate. The man collapsed, groaning. 2 down. The third gunman had frozen, his weapon half raised, his eyes wide. He was younger than the others, maybe 25. His hand was shaking. Ethan met his gaze, steady, cold. "Put it down," Ethan said. The young man's finger twitched on the trigger. "Don't." The gun lowered, slowly. The man's breathing was ragged, his face pale. He dropped the weapon, raised his hands, and backed toward the door. Then he turned and ran. Ethan let him go. He stood in the center of the dining room, breathing hard, his pulse hammering in his ears. The lid man was still on the floor, clutching his broken arm, his face twisted in pain. The second man wasn't moving. The room was silent except for the distant wail of sirens. Ethan looked down at his hands. No blood. That was something. He turned toward table 7. Damian Cross was staring at him, not with fear, not with gratitude, with something sharper, calculation. Victoria was standing now, her body still angled protectively, but her eyes were locked on Ethan. She wasn't looking at him like he was a waiter anymore. "You just saved my life," Cross said. His voice was calm, almost conversational. Ethan picked up the towel he'd dropped, draped it back over his arm. "Just doing my job." "Your job is to pour water." Ethan didn't answer. He turned toward the kitchen, but Cross's voice stopped him. "Wait." Ethan stopped. Didn't turn around. "I want to know who you are," Cross said. "Nobody," Ethan replied. "Just a waiter." He walked into the kitchen, pushed through the back door into the alley, and didn't look back. The sirens were louder now. Ethan leaned against the brick wall, his head tilted back, eyes closed. His hands were steady. That was good. They used to shake after. Not anymore. He'd learned how to shut it down, compartmentalize, lock it away in the part of his brain he didn't open unless he had to. But tonight, he'd opened it. He heard footsteps. Light, measured. He opened his eyes. Victoria Hale stood at the mouth of the alley, her blazer buttoned, her tablet tucked under one arm. She didn't look shaken, didn't look scared. She looked focused. "The police want a statement," she said. "I gave one to the manager." "That's not what I mean." She took a few steps closer, her heels clicking on the asphalt. "Damian wants to talk to you." "Tell him I'm busy." "He doesn't take no for an answer." "Then he's going to learn." She stopped a few feet away, studying him. Her expression was hard to read. Not curious, exactly. More like she was assembling a puzzle and had just found a piece that didn't fit. "You're not a waiter," she said. "I am tonight." "You moved like someone with training. Military?" Ethan didn't answer. "Private security? Special forces?" He pushed off the wall, started walking toward the street. She followed. "Damian will pay you. Whatever you want. He needs someone like you." "I'm not for sale." "Everyone's for sale." He stopped, turned to face her. Up close, she was younger than he'd thought. Maybe 32, 33. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that didn't blink. She held herself like someone who'd learned early that hesitation got you killed. "I have a daughter," Ethan said. "She's 7. She goes to bed at 8:30, and I read her a story every night. That's my life now. I'm not going back." "Back to what?" He held her gaze for a long moment, then turned and walked away. This time, she didn't follow. Ethan's apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up in Queens, the kind of building where the radiator clanged all winter and the neighbors fought loud enough to rattle the walls. He unlocked the door quietly, stepped inside, and locked it behind him. The living room was small, a couch that sagged in the middle, a coffee table covered in Lily's drawings, a bookshelf crammed with picture books and a few paperbacks he never had time to read. The TV was on, muted, casting flickering blue light across the room. Mrs. Alvarez was asleep in the armchair, her reading glasses crooked on her nose. She was 70-something, a retired teacher who lived 2 doors down. She babysat when Ethan worked nights, never asked questions, always left a plate of leftovers in the fridge. He touched her shoulder gently. She woke with a start, blinking. "Ethan, you're home." "Sorry I'm late." "No trouble." Lily went down at 8:30, just like always. She stood, smoothing her cardigan. "She asked about you. Wanted to know if you'd be home in time for breakfast." "I will be." Mrs. Alvarez studied him for a moment, her eyes soft. "You look tired, mijo." "Long night." She patted his arm, gathered her bag, and left. Ethan locked the door behind her, then walked down the narrow hallway to Lily's room. He pushed the door open slowly, careful not to let it creak. She was asleep, curled on her side, one arm wrapped around a stuffed rabbit with floppy ears. Her hair, dark like her mother's, was tangled across the pillow. She'd kicked off her blanket. Ethan pulled it back over her, tucked it around her shoulders. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Daddy? I'm here, sweetheart. Did you have a good night?" He smoothed her hair back, his hand gentle. "Yeah, I did." "Did you save anyone?" His chest tightened. She asked that sometimes. He never knew if she meant it literally or if it was just something kids said. "Just poured a lot of water," he said softly. She smiled, her eyes already closing again. "You're the best water pourer ever. Go back to sleep, Lily." "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too." He stayed there for a while, watching her breathe, listening to the rhythm of it. This was why he'd walked away. Why he'd traded the adrenaline, the missions, the weight of a weapon in his hands for this cramped apartment and late-night shifts and a 7-year-old who thought he poured water for a living. This was enough. It had to be. The next morning, Ethan woke to the smell of burnt toast. He stumbled into the kitchen to find Lily standing on a chair, poking at the toaster with a butter knife. "Lily, don't—" The toast popped up, charred black. Lily grinned at him, triumphant. "I made breakfast." He rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the fog of 3 hours of sleep. "You're going to burn the place down." "I was careful." He lifted her off the chair, set her down gently. "Let me handle the toaster from now on, okay?" "Okay." He scraped the burnt toast into the trash, dropped 2 new slices in. Lily climbed onto the counter, swinging her legs. "Can we go to the park today?" she asked. "I have to work tonight." "But it's Saturday." "I know. I'm sorry." Her face fell. She didn't complain. She never did. That made it worse. "Tomorrow," Ethan said. "I promise. We'll go to the park, get ice cream, stay out as long as you want." "Really?" "Really." She brightened, and his chest eased a little. The toast popped up. He buttered it, put it on a plate, and slid it across the counter. Lily took a bite, chewed thoughtfully. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Are we poor?" He blinked. "Where'd that come from?" "Megan at school said her dad makes lots of money. She has a big house and a pool." Ethan sat down across from her, his coffee mug warm in his hands. "We're not poor, Lily. We have what we need. But we don't have a pool." "Do you want a pool?" She thought about it. "Not really. Pools are cold." He smiled. "Then we're good." She nodded, satisfied, and took another bite of toast. Ethan watched her, his chest tight. He wanted to give her more. A bigger place, a yard, a life where she didn't have to ask if they were poor, but the only way to do that was to go back. And going back meant becoming someone he didn't want to be anymore. He'd made his choice 2 years ago, the day Sarah died. The day the doctors told him there was nothing more they could do, that the cancer had spread too far, too fast. He'd held her hand and promised her he'd keep Lily safe, that he'd give her a normal life, and he'd meant it, even if it killed him. Ethan's phone buzzed while he was walking Lily to the subway. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen. Unknown number. He ignored it. It buzzed again, same number. He sighed, answered. "Yeah?" "Mr. Cole." A woman's voice, smooth, professional, familiar. "Who is this?" "Victoria Hale. We met last night." Ethan stopped walking. Lily tugged on his hand. "Daddy, come on. We're going to be late." He held up a finger, mouthed 1 second. "How did you get this number?" he asked. "Damien Cross has resources," Victoria said. "He'd like to meet with you." "I told you I'm not interested." "He's prepared to make it worth your while." "I don't care." "Mr. Cole?" "I have a kid," Ethan said, his voice hard. "I have a life. I'm not your guy." He hung up, shoved the phone back in his pocket. Lily was staring up at him. "Who was that?" "Nobody important." She frowned, unconvinced, but didn't push. They made it to the subway with 2 minutes to spare. Ethan crouched down, zipped up Lily's jacket. "Be good at school, okay?" "I'm always good." "I know. That's why you're my favorite. I'm your only one. Doesn't make it less true." She hugged him tight, her arms small and fierce around his neck. He held her for a moment, breathing her in, strawberry shampoo and syrup from breakfast. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, sweetheart. She pulled away, ran toward the platform. He watched her disappear into the crowd, his chest tight. Then his phone buzzed again. He pulled it out, ready to tell Victoria Hale exactly where she could shove her job offer. But it wasn't her, it was a text. Unknown number, a single line. We know where you live. And below it, a photo. Lily, standing on the subway platform, taken 30 seconds ago. Ethan's blood went cold. He was at Damian Cross's office within the hour. The building was glass and steel, 60 stories of wealth and power rising above Midtown like a monument to everything Ethan had spent 2 years trying to forget. He walked through the lobby, past security, into an elevator that climbed so fast his ears popped. Victoria was waiting when the doors opened. She didn't say anything, just turned and walked down a hallway lined with abstract art and floor-to-ceiling windows. Ethan followed. Cross's office was at the end. Massive. A desk the size of a car, a view that stretched from the Hudson to the East River. Cross stood by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city like he owned it. Maybe he did. Mr. Cole, Cross said without turning around, I'm glad you reconsidered. Ethan held up his phone, showed him the photo. Cross turned, glanced at the screen. His expression didn't change. That's unfortunate, he said. You did this. No, but I know who did. Who? Cross walked to his desk, sat down. Last night wasn't random. Those men weren't robbers. They were sent to kill me. Why? Because I made enemies. It's what happens when you build something worth taking. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. I've been receiving threats for weeks. Last night was the first time they acted. And now they're threatening my daughter. They're making a point, Cross said. They want me to know they can get to me through the people around me. You became one of those people the moment you stepped in. Ethan's jaw tightened. I didn't ask for this. No, but you're in it now. Cross leaned forward. I need someone I can trust. Someone who can anticipate threats, neutralize them before they escalate. You've already proven you can do that. I'm not a bodyguard. I'm not asking you to be. I have bodyguards. What I need is someone who thinks like the people trying to kill me. Someone who's been in their world. Ethan didn't answer. Victoria stepped forward. We'll protect your daughter. Full security detail 24/7. She'll be safer than she's ever been. Or I walk away and you leave us alone. They won't, Victoria said quietly. They've already seen you. They know you're connected to Damian now. Walking away won't change that. Ethan looked at her. She didn't flinch. Cross stood, walked around the desk. I'm offering you a way to protect her, Mr. Cole. To end this before it gets worse. Help me find who's behind this, and I'll make sure they never touch you or your daughter again. Ethan's hands curled into fists. He wanted to walk out, to tell Cross to go to hell, to take his money and his threats and his enemies and shove them all off the 60th floor. But Lily's face flickered in his mind, her small arms around his neck, her voice asking if they were poor. He looked at Cross. If anything happens to her, it won't. If it does, you won't need to worry about whoever's trying to kill you. You'll need to worry about me. Cross smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Understood. Ethan turned to Victoria. I want the security detail in place by tonight. I want updates every hour, and I want to know everything you know about who's behind this. She nodded. Done. He walked to the door, stopped, looked back at Cross. One more thing, Ethan said. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for her. Don't forget that. Cross didn't answer. Ethan left. The security detail was in place by 6. 2 men in dark suits, earpieces, the kind of faces that blended into crowds but radiated competence. They stood outside Lily's school, outside the apartment, outside everywhere she went. Ethan hated it, but he hated the alternative more. Victoria sent him a file that night, encrypted, detailed. It outlined everything they knew about the threats, which wasn't much. Anonymous messages, untraceable accounts, no clear motive beyond revenge. Whoever was behind this knew how to stay hidden. Ethan read it twice, made notes, started building a profile. Organized, patient, well-funded, personal. That last part stuck with him. This wasn't business. It was personal. He called Victoria. "Talk to me about Cross's past," Ethan said. "Who did he screw over?" "That's a long list." "Narrow it down. Who would want him dead?" She was quiet for a moment. There was a deal 3 years ago, a hostile takeover of a tech company in Seattle. The CEO fought back, went public, accused Damien of fraud. It got ugly. What happened to the CEO? He lost everything. Company, reputation, family. Last I heard, he was living off-grid somewhere in Montana. What's his name? Marcus Hale. Ethan stopped. Hale. Like you? My brother. The line went silent. You didn't think that was worth mentioning? Ethan said. It's not relevant. Your brother's a suspect and you're Cross's assistant. That's pretty damn relevant. He's not behind this. How do you know? Because I know him. Ethan rubbed his eyes. I need to talk to him. That's not possible. Make it possible. Ethan, Victoria. His voice was hard. If you want me to do this, I need the whole story, not the version Cross wants me to hear, the truth. She was quiet for a long time. I'll see what I can do, she said finally. Then she hung up. Ethan set down the phone, stared at the wall. This was already more complicated than he'd signed up for. And it was only the beginning. Victoria's apartment was in Tribeca, 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. Ethan stood in the hallway outside her door at 7 in the morning, coffee in one hand, a folder in the other. He'd been up since 4, running surveillance routes, checking security feeds, doing the kind of work that used to be second nature but now felt like putting on an old coat that didn't fit right anymore. She opened the door before he knocked. Hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing joggers and a Columbia sweatshirt. She looked younger, more human. You're early, she said. You said we'd talk. She stepped aside, let him in. The apartment was clean, minimal. A couch, a coffee table with nothing on it, a kitchen that looked like it had never been used. The only personal touch was a bookshelf crammed with hardcovers, biographies, business theory, a few novels wedged in sideways. You want coffee? She asked. He held up his cup. I'm good. She poured herself a mug, leaned against the counter. You look like you didn't sleep. I didn't? That's going to be a problem if you plan on staying sharp. I'll manage. He set the folder on the counter. I went through the file you sent. Cross has a lot of enemies, but most of them are the lawsuit type. They don't hire gunmen. Agreed. Which brings me back to your brother. Her jaw tightened. Marcus wouldn't do this. You said he lost everything. Company, family, reputation. That's motive. Motive isn't proof. No, but it's a starting point. Ethan opened the folder, pulled out a printed photo. Marcus Hale. Mid-40s, thin face, hollow eyes. The photo was from a LinkedIn profile 3 years old. When's the last time you talked to him? She looked away. 2 years ago. What happened? He blamed me for not standing up to Damien, said I chose a paycheck over family. Did you? Her eyes snapped back to him, sharp. I chose survival. Marcus was self-destructing long before Damien got involved. The takeover just gave him someone to blame. Ethan studied her. She wasn't lying, but she wasn't telling him everything either. I need to talk to him, Ethan said. He's off-grid, Montana somewhere. No phone, no internet. You know where? She hesitated. I have an address, but it's 3 years old. He might not even be there. It's a start. She crossed her arms. You planning to just show up and interrogate him? Unless you have a better idea. What if he's not involved? What if this just makes things worse between us? Then you'll know he's not the guy trying to kill your boss. Ethan folded the photo, tucked it back in the folder. Either way, we need to rule him out. She was quiet for a long moment, then walked to a drawer, pulled out a piece of paper. She wrote an address in neat, precise handwriting, handed it to him. It's near a town called Whitefish, she said, about 15 miles off the main road. Last I heard, he was living in a cabin, no neighbors. You going to come with me? She shook her head. If Marcus sees me, he won't talk. He'll just shut down. Then how do I get him to open up? Tell him I sent you. Tell him I'm trying to help." Her voice was quiet. "And tell him I'm sorry." Ethan looked at her. There was something fragile in her expression, something she was trying to hide. He nodded, pocketed the address. "I'll leave tonight," he said. "What about Lily?" "She's covered. Security stays with her until I'm back." Victoria walked him to the door. She opened it, then stopped. "Ethan." He turned. "Be careful," she said. "If Marcus is involved, he's not the same person I used to know. People change when they lose everything." "Yeah," Ethan said quietly. "They do." He left. The flight to Montana was 4 hours, turbulence most of the way. Ethan sat in the back row, staring out the window, watching the landscape shift from concrete to green to white-capped mountains. He'd called Lily before takeoff, told her he had to go away for work, that he'd be back in 2 days. She'd asked if he was going somewhere fun. He'd lied and said yes. The guilt sat heavy in his chest. He rented a truck at the airport in Kalispell, drove north toward Whitefish. The road was narrow, winding through dense forest, the kind of place where cell service dropped to nothing, and the only signs of civilization were the occasional mailbox half buried in snow. He checked the address 3 times, took a dirt road that cut through the trees, and drove until the road ended. The cabin was small. Log construction, a tin roof, a single chimney leaking smoke into the gray sky. No car. No lights. The windows were covered with thick curtains. Ethan parked the truck, got out. The air was cold, sharp, smelled like pine and wood smoke. He walked to the front door, knocked. Nothing. He knocked again, harder. "Go away!" A voice from inside. Male. Rough. "Marcus Hale?" Silence. "My name's Ethan Cole. Victoria sent me." The door opened a crack. A man's face appeared, half-shadowed, thin, unshaven, eyes bloodshot and wary. He looked older than the photo. "Victoria doesn't talk to me anymore," Marcus said. "She does now." Marcus stared at him, then stepped back, opened the door wider. The inside of the cabin was a mess. Clothes piled in the corner, empty cans stacked on a makeshift table, a cot shoved against the wall. It smelled like stale beer and unwashed laundry. A rifle leaned against the doorframe. Ethan clocked it, kept his hands visible. "You want to tell me why my sister's sending strangers to my door?" Marcus asked. "Someone's trying to kill Damian Cross." Marcus laughed. It was a bitter sound. "Good. They threatened my daughter to get to me, so I'm not real sympathetic to whatever grudge you're nursing." Marcus's expression darkened. "You work for him?" "Temporarily." "Then you're an idiot." Marcus walked to a corner, grabbed a bottle of whiskey, took a long pull. He didn't offer Ethan any. "Cross destroys people. It's what he does. He did it to me. He'll do it to you." "I'm not here to debate his character. I'm here to find out if you're the one sending gunmen after him." Marcus set down the bottle. "You think I did this? You had motive." "I had motive 3 years ago. If I wanted him dead, I would have done it then." He walked to the window, stared out at the trees. "I tried, you know. After everything fell apart, I sat outside his building with a hunting rifle, scoped him through the window, had the shot lined up, clean, easy." Ethan's hand moved toward the rifle by the door. Subtle. Marcus noticed. "Relax. I didn't pull the trigger." "Why not?" "Because killing him wouldn't bring my company back, wouldn't fix my marriage, wouldn't undo the last 3 years." He turned to face Ethan. "All it would have done is put me in prison, and I was already in one." Ethan studied him. The man was broken, angry, but he wasn't lying. "If it's not you, then who?" Ethan asked. "I don't know, but Cross made a lot of enemies, more than just me." "Give me names." Marcus laughed again. "You got a week? The list is long." "Start with the ones who'd actually kill him." Marcus walked to the table, rifled through a pile of papers, pulled out a notebook. He flipped through it, stopped on a page, tore it out, handed it to Ethan. It was a list, handwritten. 10 names, some with notes beside them. "These are people Cross screwed over in deals," Marcus said. "Some lost money, some lost more. Most of them moved on. But a few—" He tapped the page. "A few didn't." Ethan scanned the list, recognized a couple of names from the file Victoria had sent. One stood out. Anton Volkov, Ethan read aloud. Russian developer. Cross bought his company, gutted it, sold the assets. Volkov's son died by suicide 6 months later. Blamed Cross in the note. Marcus nodded. If I were betting, I'd put money on him. You know where he is? Last I heard, he was in Brighton Beach, runs a construction company. Front for money laundering, probably. Marcus crossed his arms. But if you're planning to walk into his office and ask nicely, you're dumber than I thought. I've done dumber things. Marcus looked at him for a long moment. You used to be military, didn't you? Something like that. Let me guess. Special ops? Black ops? The kind of work they don't put on a resume? Ethan didn't answer. Marcus nodded. Yeah, I can see it. You got that look, like you've seen things you're trying to forget. He picked up the whiskey bottle again, took another swig. Good luck with that. Ethan folded the list, pocketed it. Thanks for the names. Don't thank me yet. Marcus walked to the door, opened it. And tell Victoria I don't need her apology. I just need her to stop pretending she didn't make a choice. Ethan stepped outside. The cold hit him hard. She did what she had to, Ethan said. So did I. Marcus shut the door. Ethan stood there for a moment, staring at the closed door, then walked back to the truck. By the time he landed back in New York, it was past midnight. He went straight to his apartment, checked in with the security detail outside. They gave him the all clear. Lily was asleep. Mrs. Alvarez had stayed late. He unlocked the door quietly, stepped inside. Lily was curled on the couch, a blanket pulled over her, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. Mrs. Alvarez was in the kitchen, washing dishes. She waited up for you, Mrs. Alvarez said softly. Fell asleep around 11. I told her I'd be gone 2 days. She wanted to make sure you were okay. Ethan's chest tightened. He walked to the couch, crouched down, brushed Lily's hair back from her face. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Daddy? Hey, sweetheart. You're back. I'm back. She sat up, rubbed her eyes. Did you save anyone? He thought about Marcus, about the broken man in the cabin, drowning in whiskey and regret. Not this time, Ethan said. She hugged him, her arms tight around his neck. I missed you. I missed you too. Mrs. Alvarez left. Ethan carried Lily to her bed, tucked her in, stayed until she fell back asleep. Then he walked to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, and stared at the list Marcus had given him. Anton Volkov. He pulled out his phone, called Victoria. She answered on the second ring. How'd it go? Your brother's not involved. You sure? Yeah, but he gave me a name. Anton Volkov, Russian developer, lost his son after Cross destroyed his company. Victoria was quiet. I know the name. Cross ever mention him? Once. He said Volkov made threats after the deal closed. Damien didn't take them seriously. He should have. You think Volkov's behind this? I think he's worth looking into. Ethan set down the glass. I need everything you have on him. Addresses, known associates, financials. And I need it tonight. I'll send it over. Victoria. Yeah? Marcus said to tell you he doesn't need your apology. She didn't respond. But I think he does, Ethan added quietly. The line went dead. Ethan set down the phone, walked to the window. The city stretched out below, a sea of lights and movement. Somewhere out there, someone was planning the next move, the next attack. And Ethan was going to find them first. The file on Anton Volkov arrived an hour later, thick, detailed. Victoria had pulled everything, property records, business filings, surveillance photos, even a few intercepted emails. Ethan spread it across the kitchen table, started piecing it together. Volkov owned a construction company in Brighton Beach, legitimate on paper, but the financials didn't add up. Too much cash moving through, too many shell companies, classic laundering operation. He had ties to the Russian mob, old connections from before he came to the States. Dangerous connections. His son, Alexei, had been 23 when he died. Brilliant kid, MIT grad, software engineer. He'd been working at his father's tech company when Cross bought it out, gutted the leadership, sold the patents. Alexei had blamed himself for not seeing it coming. 6 months later, he was dead. The suicide note had been brief, just 3 lines. I failed you, Papa. I'm sorry. Make him pay. Ethan stared at the scanned copy of the note, the handwriting shaky, desperate. This wasn't just business. This was revenge. He checked the time, 2 in the morning. Too late to move tonight. But he'd go tomorrow. Scope out Volkov's office, see who was coming and going, figure out the security setup. He closed the file, walked to Lily's room, stood in the doorway. She was asleep, breathing soft and steady. He wanted to wake her, hold her, tell her everything was going to be okay. But he didn't know if that was true. The next morning, Ethan took the subway to Brighton Beach. The neighborhood was a mix of old world Russia and new world hustle. Cyrillic signs above storefronts, women in headscarves haggling over produce, men in tracksuits smoking outside cafes. Volkov's office was on a corner lot, second floor above a butcher shop. The windows were tinted. No visible security, but Ethan knew better than to assume it wasn't there. He bought a coffee from a corner store, sat on a bench across the street, and waited. An hour passed. Nothing. Then a black Mercedes pulled up. Tinted windows, New York plates. 2 men got out. Both tall, both wearing dark coats. One of them had a scar running down his cheek. They walked into the building. Ethan memorized their faces. 20 minutes later, they came back out. This time, they weren't alone. Anton Volkov was in his 60s, gray hair slicked back, a long wool coat that looked expensive. He moved slow, deliberate, like a man who knew people waited for him. The 2 men flanked him, one holding the car door open. Volkov stopped, said something to the man with the scar. The man nodded, pulled out his phone, made a call. Ethan's instincts kicked in. Something was happening. He stood, started walking toward the Mercedes. Casual. Just another pedestrian. The man with the scar noticed him. His hand moved inside his coat. Ethan kept walking. The man stepped forward, blocking his path. Keep moving. Ethan stopped, held up his hands. Just trying to get to the subway. Other side of the street. Got it. Ethan turned, started walking away. He counted his steps. 5, 6. Then he heard it. The screech of tires. A van, black, no plates, came tearing around the corner. It swerved, jumped the curb, headed straight for the Mercedes. Ethan turned, shouted, "Move!" The man with the scar went for his gun. Too slow. The van slammed into the Mercedes, crumpling the side. Volkov went down, hit the pavement hard. The 2 men drew weapons, started firing at the van. The side door slid open. Gunmen, 3 of them, automatic rifles. Ethan dove behind a parked car as bullets tore through the air. Glass shattered, metal screamed. People on the street were running, screaming, scattering. One of Volkov's men went down, blood spraying from his chest. The other kept firing, trying to cover Volkov. Ethan looked around. No cover, no backup, just chaos. He did the math. 3 shooters, 1 wounded bodyguard. Volkov on the ground, not moving. This wasn't his fight, but then he saw the gunman aiming at Volkov's head, finger tightening on the trigger. Ethan moved. He grabbed a trash can lid, threw it hard. It hit the gunman in the face, sent him stumbling back. Ethan closed the distance, tackled him into the side of the van. The rifle clattered to the ground. Ethan grabbed it, swung the stock into the man's ribs, dropped him. The second gunman turned, weapon rising. Ethan fired first. 3 shots. Center mass. The man went down. The third gunman was already retreating, dragging his wounded partner back into the van. The engine roared. The van peeled out, tires smoking, disappeared around the corner. Ethan stood there, breathing hard, the rifle still in his hands. Sirens. Distant, but getting closer. He dropped the weapon, turned to Volkov. The old man was conscious, clutching his ribs, his face pale. The surviving bodyguard was kneeling beside him, speaking rapid Russian into his phone. Volkov looked up at Ethan. His eyes were sharp, calculating. "Who are you?" Volkov asked. His accent was thick. "Nobody." "Nobody doesn't save my life." Ethan didn't answer. He turned, started walking away. "Wait." Ethan stopped. Volkov struggled to sit up, wincing. "You work for Cross." It wasn't a question. Ethan turned back. "How'd you know?" "Because only Cross's people would be stupid enough to be here." Volkov coughed, blood flecking his lips. You tell him this. Tell him I didn't send those men last week. Someone else wants him dead, and they want me dead too. Who? I don't know, but they know things. About me, about Cross, about deals we made years ago. Volkov's eyes locked onto Ethan's. Someone's playing us both. The sirens were louder now. Ethan nodded, turned, and disappeared into the crowd. He made it back to Manhattan by noon, went straight to Cross's office. Victoria was there, standing by the window, arms crossed. Cross was at his desk, reading something on his tablet. Volkov was just attacked, Ethan said. Cross looked up. Is he dead? No, but someone tried. Who? He doesn't know, but he says it's the same people coming after you. Victoria frowned. That doesn't make sense. Volkov hates Damien. Hate doesn't mean he's behind it. Ethan walked to the desk, leaned on it. Someone's setting this up, pitting you against each other, making you think it's personal when it's something else. Like what? Cross asked. I don't know yet, but Volkov said they know things about old deals, things buried. Cross was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down the tablet. There was a project, he said slowly, 10 years ago. Volkov and I partnered on a development deal in Moscow, high-rise luxury condos. We used offshore accounts to move money, avoid taxes. It was lucrative and illegal. Victoria's expression shifted. You never told me about this. It was before your time. Who else knew? Ethan asked. Just the three of us, me, Volkov, and the lawyer who set it up. What's the lawyer's name? Cross hesitated. Richard Calloway. He's dead. Heart attack 2 years ago. Ethan's instincts flared. You sure it was a heart attack? Cross stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying someone's tying up loose ends. Volkov's a target because he knows about the deal. You're a target because you made it happen. And if Calloway's dead, maybe it wasn't natural causes. Victoria stepped forward. You think someone's using the deal as leverage? Or covering it up? Ethan straightened. Either way, we need to figure out who else knew about it. Cross stood, walked to the window. There was one other person, Calloway's assistant. She handled the paperwork, the wire transfers, but she left the firm years ago. I don't know where she is now. What's her name? Elena Petrov. Ethan pulled out his phone. I'll find her. Victoria touched his arm. Ethan, if this goes where I think it's going, we're not just dealing with hired guns anymore. We're dealing with someone who knows how to erase people. Yeah, Ethan said quietly. I know. He walked out, already dialing. This was bigger than revenge, and it was just getting started. Elena Petrov wasn't hard to find. 2 hours of database searches, a few calls to former colleagues at Calloway's old firm, and Ethan had an address in Astoria. Small apartment building, 3rd floor, tucked between a laundromat and a Greek diner that smelled like lamb and lemon. He stood outside her door at 6 in the evening, listening. Television on inside. Voices. A game show from the sound of it. He knocked. The volume dropped. Footsteps. A shadow crossed the peephole. Who is it? A woman's voice. Accented. Eastern European. My name's Ethan Cole. I need to talk to you about Richard Calloway. Silence. He's dead, she said finally. I know. That's why I'm here. The locks turned. 3 of them. The door opened a crack, chain still attached. A woman's face appeared. Late 40s, dark hair streaked with gray, tired eyes that had seen too much. I don't know anything, Elena said. You worked for him, handled his paperwork. That was a long time ago. 10 years. Moscow deal. Damien Cross and Anton Volkov. Her face went pale. She tried to close the door. Ethan put his hand on it, not hard, just enough to stop her. People are dying, he said quietly. If you know something, I need to hear it. I signed an NDA. NDAs don't protect you from bullets. She stared at him, her breathing shallow. Then she took the chain off, stepped back. 5 minutes, she said. Then you leave. The apartment was small, cluttered. Stacks of papers on the dining table, a cat curled on the couch, photos on the wall. Family, maybe. People smiling in places that looked far from here. Elena gestured to a chair. Ethan sat. She stayed standing, arms crossed. What do you want to know? She asked. The Moscow deal. Cross and Volkov. You handled the transfers. I handled a lot of transfers. This one was different. Offshore accounts, millions moving through shell companies. She looked away. I did what Richard told me to do. Did he tell you it was illegal? He didn't have to. I'm not stupid. Her voice was bitter. But I needed the job. I had a daughter, rent to pay. You do what you have to. Ethan understood that more than she knew. Who else knew about it, he asked. Just us. Me, Richard, Cross, Volkov. That's it. You sure? She hesitated. There was one other person. Someone Richard brought in near the end, a consultant. I never met him, just saw emails. You remember the name? No, but I remember the email address. It was strange, not a real name, just initials. JPM at some domain I'd never heard of. You still have the emails? Richard made me delete everything when the deal closed, but I kept copies, just in case. In case of what? She met his eyes. In case someone came after me. Smart woman. Where are the copies? Ethan asked. She walked to a closet, pulled out a cardboard box, rifled through it. She pulled out a flash drive, held it up. Everything's on here. Emails, wire confirmations, contracts. I haven't looked at it in years. Can I take it? No. Elena, you can look at it here, but it doesn't leave this apartment. Ethan nodded. She handed him the drive, pointed to a laptop on the table. He plugged it in, opened the files. There were hundreds of emails. He skimmed through them, looking for anything with the JPM address. Found it buried in a thread from 10 years ago. The emails were brief, technical. Instructions on routing payments, setting up accounts, timing transfers to avoid detection. Whoever JPM was, they knew what they were doing. Ethan clicked on one of the attachments. A scanned contract. He read through it, stopped halfway down the second page. There was a signature at the bottom. Not JPM. A full name. Julian Patrick Mercer. Ethan stared at it. The name didn't mean anything to him. He pulled out his phone, ran a search. The results came back fast. Julian Mercer. Financial consultant. Specialized in offshore structuring, tax avoidance, asset protection. Based in the Cayman Islands. No criminal record, no red flags. Except for one thing. He died 3 months ago. Car accident in Grand Cayman. Drove off a cliff. No witnesses. Ethan's blood went cold. What is it? Elena asked. He looked up at her. The consultant, Julian Mercer. He's dead. Her face drained of color. When? 3 months ago. She sat down hard, her hands shaking. Richard, Julian, now Cross and Volkov. She looked at Ethan, her eyes wide. Someone's killing everyone who knew about the deal. Not everyone. You're still alive. For now. Ethan closed the laptop, pulled out the flash drive. I need to take this. I said no. If someone's cleaning up loose ends, they'll come for you next. The only way to stop that is to figure out who's behind it. And you think you can? I'm going to try. She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. Take it. But if I end up dead, it's on you. You won't. He stood, pocketed the drive. Pack a bag. I'm getting you somewhere safe. I'm not leaving my home. Then you're making it easy for them. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. She walked to the bedroom, started pulling clothes out of a drawer. Ethan called Victoria. I need a safe house, he said when she answered. Somewhere off the books, no cross properties. What's going on? I'll explain later, just get me an address. She was quiet for a moment. There's a place in Yonkers, old warehouse converted to lofts. A friend of mine owns it. She owes me a favor. Send me the address. Ethan, not now, Victoria. He hung up. Elena came out of the bedroom, a duffel bag over her shoulder, the cat carrier in her hand. I'm not leaving him, she said, nodding at the cat. Fine, let's go. They took the back stairs, exited through the alley. Ethan kept his hand near the small of his back, where he'd started carrying a pistol again. Old habits coming back faster than he wanted. The street was quiet, too quiet. He stopped, held up a hand. Elena froze behind him. A car was parked across the street. Black sedan, tinted windows, engine running. Ethan's instincts screamed. Get back inside, he said quietly. What? Now. The car door opened. A man stepped out, tall, lean, wearing a dark coat. His hand was inside his jacket. Ethan pushed Elena back toward the building. Run! She ran. The man drew a weapon, silenced pistol. Ethan moved. He grabbed a trash can, hurled it at the man. It hit him in the chest, bought Ethan 2 seconds. He closed the distance, grabbed the man's wrist, twisted hard. The gun went off, the shot punching into the pavement. Ethan drove his knee into the man's ribs, felt something crack. The man gasped, dropped the weapon. Ethan swept his legs, dropped him. He grabbed the pistol, aimed it at the man's head. Who sent you? The man just smiled, blood on his teeth. Then he bit down. Ethan saw it too late. The capsule. Cyanide, probably. The man convulsed, foam spilling from his mouth. 10 seconds later, he was dead. Ethan stood there, breathing hard, the pistol still in his hand. A professional. Trained to die rather than talk. This wasn't some hired thug. This was something else. He heard footsteps. Elena standing in the doorway, her face white. We need to go, Ethan said. Now. They drove to Yonkers in silence. Elena clutched the cat carrier on her lap, staring out the window. Ethan kept checking the rearview mirror, looking for tails. Saw nothing. But that didn't mean they weren't there. The safe house was a converted loft on the 3rd floor of an old factory building. Exposed brick, high ceilings, furniture that looked like it came from a thrift store. Victoria was waiting when they arrived. This is Elena Petrov, Ethan said. She needs to stay here until this is over. Victoria nodded, didn't ask questions. She showed Elena to the bedroom, came back out. What happened? She asked. Ethan told her. The emails, Julian Mercer, the dead man outside Elena's apartment. Victoria's expression darkened. Someone's erasing the trail. And they're good at it. 3 people dead, all made to look like accidents or natural causes. If I hadn't been there tonight, Elena would have been number 4. Do we know who JPM is? I mean, beyond the name? Not yet, but I'm going to find out. Ethan pulled out the flash drive. Everything's on here. Financial records, emails, contracts. If there's a connection, it's buried in this. I'll go through it, Victoria said. I'm good with numbers. I need to talk to Cross, see if he remembers anything about Mercer. He's at the estate. I can call him. No, I want to do this in person. Victoria frowned. Why? Because I don't trust phones anymore, and I don't trust Cross. You think he's involved? I think he's hiding something, and I'm done playing games. Ethan left Elena at the safe house, drove to Cross's estate in Westchester. The place was massive. Gated entrance, tree-lined driveway, a house that looked like it belonged in a European postcard. Security was tight. 2 guards at the gate, cameras on every corner, motion sensors in the trees. Cross met him in the study. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a fireplace crackling with real wood, leather furniture that probably cost more than Ethan made in a year. Cross was standing by the window, a glass of scotch in his hand. You wanted to talk, Cross said without turning around. Julian Mercer, Ethan said. Tell me about him. Cross turned. His expression didn't change. He was a consultant, helped structure the Moscow deal. He's dead. I know. You know? Ethan's voice hardened. You didn't think that was worth mentioning? It was an accident. So was Richard Calloway's heart attack. So was everything else that's happened. Ethan stepped closer. Someone's killing everyone who knew about that deal, and you didn't think that was relevant? Cross set down his glass. I didn't think it was connected. Bullshit. Excuse me? You're a smart man, Cross. You don't get to where you are by being blind. You knew something was off. You just didn't care. Cross's jaw tightened. Careful, Mr. Cole. Or what? You'll fire me? Someone just tried to kill the last witness to your illegal deal. I don't think job security is my biggest concern right now. They stared at each other. The fireplace crackled. Cross walked to the desk, pulled out a folder, tossed it to Ethan. What's this? Ethan asked. Everything I know about Julian Mercer. I had my people look into his death after it happened. Something didn't sit right. Ethan opened the folder. Autopsy report, police records, photos of the crash site. He scanned through it. The police ruled it an accident, Cross said. But the car's brakes were tampered with. Subtle, professional. Whoever did it knew what they were doing. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because I didn't know who to trust. Mercer was the only one outside my inner circle who knew about Moscow. If someone killed him, it meant they knew about the deal. And the only people who knew were me, Volkov, Calloway, and Elena. You thought one of them was behind it? I didn't know what to think, so I kept quiet and waited. For what? For someone to make a move. Cross picked up his scotch again. Turns out they did. Ethan closed the folder. This doesn't tell me who's behind it. No, but it tells you they're methodical, patient. They waited 2 years between Calloway and Mercer. They're not in a hurry. Then why hit you and Volkov now? Cross was quiet for a moment. Because something changed. What? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Ethan walked to the door, stopped. If you're holding anything else back, now's the time to say it. I'm not. You better hope that's true. Because if I find out you lied to me, I'm walking, and you can deal with this mess on your own. He left before Cross could respond. Victoria was waiting in the car outside. Ethan got in, slammed the door. How'd it go? She asked. He's hiding something. I just don't know what. You think he's involved? I think he's protecting himself, same as always. Victoria pulled out onto the road. They drove in silence for a few minutes. I went through the flash drive, she said finally. Find anything? A pattern. The wire transfers didn't just go to one account. They were split across a dozen shell companies, all registered in different countries. But there's one account that shows up in every single transaction, a holding company in the Cayman Islands. Owned by Mercer? No, someone else. The name on the paperwork is fake, but the account's still active. How do you know? Because someone made a withdrawal 3 days ago. Ethan turned to her. How much? $5 million. His mind raced. Where'd it go? That's the problem. I can't trace it. Whoever set this up knew how to cover their tracks. Can you get into the account? Maybe, but it'll take time. We don't have time. Victoria glanced at him. What are you thinking? I'm thinking whoever's behind this is using that account to fund the operation. The hitmen, the surveillance, the cleanup. All of it costs money. So if we find the account holder, we find the person trying to kill Cross. Victoria nodded. I'll make some calls, see what I can dig up. They drove back to the safe house. Elena was in the kitchen, making tea. She looked calmer, but her hands were still shaking. You okay? Ethan asked. She nodded. Your friend is nice. She said I could stay as long as I need. You will, until this is over. And when will that be? Soon. He hoped he wasn't lying. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat on the couch in the safe house, staring at the files spread across the coffee table. Financial records, emails, autopsy reports, pieces of a puzzle that didn't quite fit. Victoria walked out of the bedroom, wrapped in a blanket. She sat down next to him. You should sleep, she said. Can't. Because you're thinking too much. Because I'm missing something. She looked at the files. What do you mean? 3 people dead, all connected to the Moscow deal, but why now? What triggered this? Maybe someone found out about it. A journalist, a competitor. No, if someone found out, they'd go public. Blow the whole thing open. This is different. This is personal. Victoria was quiet for a moment. You think it's revenge? I think it's someone who lost something, someone who blames Cross and Volkov for it. Like Marcus? No. Marcus is broken, but he's not a killer. This is someone else, someone with resources, someone who knows how to stay hidden. Victoria pulled the blanket tighter. What if it's not about the Moscow deal at all? What if that's just a smokescreen? Ethan looked at her. Explain. Think about it. Cross and Volkov both have enemies, lots of them. What if someone's using the Moscow deal to cover up a different motive? Make it look like it's about the past when it's really about something else. Ethan leaned back, running the scenario in his head. It fit. Too well. If you're right, we've been looking in the wrong place, he said. So where do we look? At what's happening now, not 10 years ago. Victoria grabbed her laptop, opened it. Cross just closed a deal last month. Acquisition of a pharmaceutical company. Hostile takeover. The CEO fought back hard. What's the CEO's name? Catherine Joe. She's still making noise, threatened lawsuits, went to the press. Said Cross stole proprietary research. Did he? Victoria hesitated. Probably. Ethan stood, paced. Find out everything you can about her. Where she is, who she's working with, if she has the resources to fund something like this. You think a pharmaceutical CEO is hiring hitmen? I think people do desperate things when they lose everything. Victoria started typing. Ethan walked to the window, stared out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, someone was planning the next move, and Ethan was running out of time to stop them. His phone buzzed, a text from the security detail watching Lily. All clear, she's asleep. No movement. He exhaled, some of the tension easing. Then another text came through. Different number. You're getting closer, but not close enough. Ethan's blood froze. He showed Victoria the message. Her face went pale. How do they know? Because they've been watching us the whole time. Another text. Check the news. Ethan pulled up a news site on his phone. The headline hit him like a punch to the gut. Explosion at Brighton Beach construction office. Casualties reported. He clicked the article. Volkov's office. Destroyed. 3 dead. Volkov himself in critical condition at a nearby hospital. They just escalated, Victoria said quietly. Ethan grabbed his jacket. I'm going to the hospital. Ethan, wait. They want me to know they're in control, that they can hit anyone, anytime. I'm not giving them that. Then let me come with you. He looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes. Fine, but you stay in the car. They drove to Brooklyn. The hospital was swarming with police, reporters, security. Ethan flashed a fake ID he'd kept from his old life, got past the front desk, took the elevator to the ICU. Volkov was in a private room, machines beeping around him. His face was bandaged, his breathing labored. The bodyguard with the scar sat in the corner, his arm in a sling. Ethan walked in. The bodyguard stood, hand moving to his waist. Relax, Ethan said. I'm the one who saved him, remember? The bodyguard didn't relax, but he didn't draw his weapon either. Ethan approached the bed. Volkov's eyes were closed, but his hand twitched. Can he hear me? Ethan asked. The bodyguard nodded. Ethan leaned closer. Volkov, it's Ethan Cole, the man from Brighton Beach. Volkov's eyes opened, barely, bloodshot and unfocused. They're not going to stop, Ethan said quietly. Not until everyone who knew about Moscow is dead. I need you to tell me who else was involved. Someone we're missing. Volkov's lips moved. No sound. Ethan leaned closer. Partner, Volkov whispered. Silent partner. Who? Volkov's hand moved, weak, trembling. He pointed at the bodyguard. He knows. The bodyguard's expression didn't change. Ethan turned to him. What's he talking about? The bodyguard pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket, handed it to Ethan. Mr. Volkov told me to give you this. If something happened to him. Ethan unfolded it. A name, an address, and a photo. His chest tightened. He knew that face. Victoria was leaning against the car when Ethan came out of the hospital. She straightened when she saw his face. What is it? She asked. He handed her the paper without a word. She unfolded it, looked at the photo. Her expression went blank. No, she said quietly. You know her? Catherine Joe, the pharmaceutical CEO I mentioned. Victoria looked up at him, her eyes wide. She wasn't just the target of Cross's takeover. She was a silent investor in the Moscow deal. Ethan's mind raced. How is that possible? Cross said only 5 people knew. Maybe he lied. Or maybe he didn't know she was involved. Victoria stared at the photo. If Joe was part of it, she had just as much to lose as Cross and Volkov. Maybe more. Then why go after them? I don't know. But this address, Victoria pointed to the second line on the paper. That's in Red Hook, Warehouse District. Not exactly where a pharmaceutical executive lives. Then it's where she's operating from. Victoria looked at him. You're not going there alone. Yes, I am. Ethan, if this goes wrong, Lily needs you, not me. Don't say that. I mean it. He took the paper back, folded it. If I'm not back in 3 hours, you call the police. You tell them everything, and you make sure Lily's taken care of. Victoria grabbed his arm. You don't get to do this. You don't get to play the martyr. I'm not playing anything. I'm finishing this. Then let me help. He looked at her, really looked at her. She was scared, but she wasn't backing down. You want to help? He said. Find out everything you can about Jo, her financials, her connections, anything that explains why she'd turn on Cross and Volkov. I need ammunition. Victoria nodded. I'll have it within the hour. Good. Now get back to the safe house. Stay with Elena. Don't open the door for anyone. She hesitated, then got in the car. Ethan watched her drive away before pulling out his phone. He called the security detail watching Lily. Status? He asked. All quiet. She's still asleep. Double the perimeter. No one gets within a block of that building. Copy that. He hung up, got in his truck, and drove toward Red Hook. The warehouse was exactly where Volkov's note said it would be. A squat concrete building wedged between two abandoned factories. Rusted chain-link fence around the perimeter. No lights. No signs. Ethan parked 2 blocks away, approached on foot. The fence had a gap near the back. He slipped through, kept low, moved along the wall. There were cameras mounted on the corners, but they were old, the kind that recorded on a loop. Easy to avoid if you knew where to look. He found a service door, locked. He pulled a tension wrench and pick from his pocket, worked the lock. 30 seconds. The door clicked open. Inside, the warehouse was dark. Ethan waited for his eyes to adjust, then moved forward. The space was mostly empty. Concrete floor, exposed beams, a few pallets stacked in the corner. But there was something off about it, too clean, too deliberate. He heard voices. Low, muffled, coming from below. He scanned the floor, found a seam, a hatch, hidden under a tarp. He lifted it slowly. Stairs leading down. He descended. The basement was the opposite of the warehouse above. Lit, organized. Computer monitors lined one wall, displaying security feeds, maps, financial data. A desk covered in files. And in the center of the room, a woman, Catherine Jo. She was younger than the photo, maybe late 30s. Black hair pulled back tight, sharp suit, the kind of presence that filled a room even when she wasn't moving. She was talking to someone on the phone, her voice cold and clipped. I don't care about the complications. I want it done tonight. She hung up, turned, and saw Ethan. She didn't look surprised. Mr. Cole, she said. I was wondering when you'd show up. Ethan stepped into the light, his hand near the pistol tucked in his waistband. You've been expecting me. Of course. You're predictable. A soldier playing detective. She walked to the desk, poured herself a glass of water. Would you like some? I'm fine. Suit yourself. She took a sip, set the glass down. I assume Volkov gave you my name before the explosion. He did. And you came here to do what? Arrest me? Kill me? I came here for answers. Jo smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Then ask. Why kill them? Cross, Volkov, Mercer, Calloway. You were part of the Moscow deal. You had just as much to lose. Did I? She leaned against the desk. 10 years ago, I invested everything I had into that deal. Not because I believed in it, but because Cross and Volkov promised returns that would set me up for life. And they delivered. For a while. What changed? Cross got greedy. He saw what I was building, my pharmaceutical company, my research, and he decided he wanted it. So he engineered a hostile takeover, gutted my operations, sold my patents to the highest bidder. Her voice hardened. He didn't just destroy my company. He destroyed 15 years of work, research that could have saved lives. So this is revenge. This is justice. Ethan shook his head. Justice doesn't involve blowing up buildings and killing lawyers. Doesn't it? Jo straightened. Cross and Volkov built their empires on blood and lies. They ruined people, destroyed families, and walked away richer every time. Someone had to hold them accountable. And Mercer, Calloway, Elena Petrov, what did they do? They were complicit. They knew what was happening and said nothing. That makes them guilty. You tried to kill Elena tonight. I tried to tie up loose ends. Ethan's hand moved closer to the pistol. Where's the next attack? Jo tilted her head. What makes you think there's another one? Because you're still talking. If this was over, you'd have disappeared by now. She smiled again. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Answer the question. Cross's estate, tonight. I have a team moving in as we speak. She checked her watch. They should be in position within the hour. Ethan's blood went cold. Call them off. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, a lot of innocent people are going to die. There are no innocent people in Cross's world. Ethan drew the pistol, aimed it at her chest. Call them off, now. Joe didn't flinch. You won't shoot me? Don't bet on it. You're a father, Mr. Cole, a protector. You don't kill people in cold blood. Not anymore. You don't know me. I know enough. She walked toward him, slow, deliberate. You walked away from your old life because you couldn't live with what you'd done. You think I don't recognize that? I see it in your eyes. The guilt. The regret. Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger. Stop. She stopped. 2 feet away. Close enough that he could see the lines around her eyes, the scar on her temple, half hidden by her hair. You want to save Cross? She said quietly. Then you'll have to kill me. Because I won't stop. Not until he's dead. Ethan's hand didn't waver, but his mind was racing. If he killed her, the team would still move. If he didn't, she'd keep coming. There's another way, he said. There isn't. You want Cross to pay? Fine. But do it the right way. Exposure, lawsuits, public trials. Make him answer for what he did. Joe laughed. It was a hollow sound. You think the legal system works for people like me? Cross owns half the judges in this city. He'd bury me before I ever saw a courtroom. Then we go federal, FBI, SEC. Someone who can't be bought. Naive. It's better than this. Joe stared at him. For a moment, something flickered in her expression. Doubt, maybe. Or exhaustion. Then it was gone. I made my choice a long time ago, she said. I can live with it. She reached for something on the desk. Ethan fired. The shot hit her in the shoulder. She stumbled back, clutching the wound, blood seeping through her fingers. She gasped, her face going pale. You shot me, she said, almost surprised. You went for a weapon. It was my phone. Ethan glanced at the desk. She was right, just a phone. He lowered the gun, moved toward her. I need the location of your team, now. She laughed again, weaker this time. You think they'll stop because I'm bleeding? They will if you tell them to. I won't. Then you'll die here, alone, and Cross will still be alive. She met his eyes. Blood dripped onto the floor. He'll get what's coming to him, she said, one way or another. Then she collapsed. Ethan caught her, lowered her to the ground. He checked her pulse, weak but steady. He pulled out his phone, called Victoria. I found Joe, he said. She's down, but she's got a team moving on Cross's estate tonight. How many? She didn't say, but it's happening soon. I'll call Cross. Get him out of there. No. If he runs, they'll just regroup and hit him somewhere else. We need to end this tonight. Victoria was quiet. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we turn the tables, use the estate as a trap, draw them in, take them down. That's insane. You have a better idea? She didn't answer. I need you to pull every security file on Cross's estate, Ethan said. Floor plans, camera feeds, guard rotations, everything. Send it to my phone. Ethan, you can't do this alone. I'm not planning to. Call Cross. Tell him what's happening. Tell him to get his security ready. And Joe? Ethan looked down at her. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow. Call an ambulance. Anonymous tip. She'll live. He hung up, stood. He looked around the room one more time. The monitors were still running, showing feeds from cameras he didn't recognize. He walked closer, studied them. One of the feeds showed Cross's estate. Front gate, driveway. The house. Another showed the safe house in Yonkers. Ethan's heart stopped. He grabbed his phone, called the security detail at Lily's school. No answer. He called again. Nothing. He ran. By the time he reached his truck, his phone was buzzing. Victoria. Ethan, the safe house, I know. I'm on my way. There's movement outside, 2 vehicles. I can see them on the street. Lock the doors, don't open them for anyone. Elena's scared. Victoria, listen to me. Get to the bathroom. Lock yourselves in. Don't come out until I get there. How long? 20 minutes. We don't have 20 minutes. He heard a crash in the background. Glass breaking. Victoria? The line went dead. Ethan drove like the city was on fire. He ran red lights, cut through alleys, pushed the truck past 80 on residential streets. His mind was a loop of worst-case scenarios. Lily safe at school, Victoria and Elena at the safe house, the team breaking in. He made it to Yonkers in 15 minutes. The building was quiet when he arrived. Too quiet. The two vehicles Victoria mentioned were parked outside. Black SUVs empty. Ethan drew his pistol, moved to the entrance. The front door was ajar. He pushed it open, stepped inside. The hallway was dark. He moved fast, checking corners, listening for movement. The stairwell was clear. He climbed to the third floor. The loft door was open, splintered around the lock. He went in low, weapon raised. The living room was trashed, furniture overturned, broken glass, bullet holes in the wall, but no bodies. He moved through the apartment. Kitchen clear, bedroom clear, bathroom door closed. He knocked. Victoria, it's me. No answer. He tried the handle, locked from the inside. Victoria, if you're in there, open the door. Still nothing. He stepped back, kicked the door. It splintered. He pushed through. Victoria was on the floor, her back against the tub, a pistol in her hand. Elena was beside her, clutching the cat carrier, her face streaked with tears. They were alive. Ethan! Victoria's voice was hoarse. She lowered the gun, her hand shaking. He holstered his weapon, crouched beside her. You okay? She nodded. They came in fast, 4 of them. We locked ourselves in here. They tried to break through, but... She gestured to the door. Bullet holes punched through the wood. I fired back. They left. Did you hit anyone? I don't know. Maybe. Ethan looked at Elena. You hurt? She shook her head, unable to speak. He stood, checked the rest of the apartment, found blood on the floor near the entrance. Not much. A graze, probably, but it was something. He came back to the bathroom. We need to move, now. Where? Victoria asked. Somewhere they won't look. They found us here. They'll find us anywhere. Not if we go to the one place they're already planning to hit. Victoria stared at him. Cross's estate. It's the last place they'd expect you to be, and it's the best defended location we've got. You're serious. Dead serious. She looked at Elena, then back at Ethan. Okay, let's go. They left the safe house, got in Ethan's truck. He drove toward Westchester, checking the rear view every 30 seconds. No tails. Not yet. Victoria was on the phone with Cross, explaining the situation. Ethan heard Cross's voice on the other end, clipped and tense. When Victoria hung up, she looked at Ethan. He's mobilizing his security. Full lockdown. No one in or out. Good. How many guards does he have? 12 on site, plus another 6 on standby. Not enough. It's what we've got. Ethan's jaw tightened. 18 guards against a team of professionals. Bad odds. But not impossible. They reached the estate just before midnight. The gates were closed, floodlights on, guards visible at every checkpoint. Cross met them at the front door, his face hard. They're coming tonight, Ethan said. We don't know how many, but they're well-trained and well-funded. Joe's been planning this for months. Cross nodded. My head of security is setting up a perimeter. Motion sensors, cameras, armed response teams. That's not going to be enough. These people are professionals. They'll find a way in. Then what do you suggest? Ethan walked to the study, spread a map of the estate on the desk. We don't try to keep them out. We let them in. Cross frowned. Explain. We set a trap. Create weak points in the perimeter, places that look vulnerable but are actually kill zones. When they breach, we funnel them into predetermined locations and take them down. Victoria stepped forward. That's risky. What if they don't take the bait? They will. They're on a timeline, Joe said tonight. That means they can't afford to wait and scout. They'll move fast, exploit any opening they see. Cross studied the map. You've done this before. Yeah. Where? Places that don't exist anymore. Cross looked up at him. If this works, I owe you more than money. If this works, You owe me nothing, because we'll be even. They spent the next hour setting up. Ethan worked with Cross's head of security, a former Marine named Garrett, who understood tactics and didn't ask stupid questions. They identified 3 weak points in the perimeter: a section of fence near the tree line, a service entrance on the east side, and a drainage tunnel that ran under the property. Each one was rigged with motion sensors, infrared cameras, and hidden firing positions. Victoria stayed with Elena in the house, locked in an interior room with no windows. Ethan made sure they had a phone, a weapon, and clear instructions. If things went south, they were to barricade the door and wait for extraction. By 2 a.m, everything was in place. Ethan stood on the second-floor balcony, watching the grounds. The estate was dark except for the perimeter lights. Quiet. Waiting. Cross joined him. "You think they'll come?" Cross asked. "They're already here." "How do you know?" "Because if I were them, I'd have been in position an hour ago." Cross was silent for a moment. "You think we'll survive this?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He thought about Lily, asleep in Queens, surrounded by guards who didn't know her, didn't care about her the way he did. He thought about Sarah, 2 years gone, her voice fading from his memory no matter how hard he tried to hold on to it. "I don't know," he said finally, "but I'm not dying tonight. Not if I can help it." Cross nodded. "Neither am I." At 2:30, the motion sensors tripped. East side, service entrance, Garrett's voice crackled over the radio. "Contact, 2 hostile, moving toward the door." Ethan keyed his radio. "Hold position, let them breach." "Copy." Ethan moved down the hallway, positioned himself at the top of the staircase. He could see the service entrance from here. The door opened slowly. 2 figures slipped inside, weapons raised, moving like shadows. Ethan waited. They cleared the first room, then the second. Then the lights came on. Garrett and 3 guards stepped out from cover, weapons trained. "Drop them," Garrett said. The 2 hostiles froze. Then one of them moved. Gunfire erupted. The hostiles went down. Fast. Clean. But it wasn't over. The radio crackled. "Perimeter breach, north fence, 4 hostiles, heavily armed." Then another voice. "Drainage tunnel, 3 hostiles, moving fast." Ethan cursed. They'd split their forces. Hit multiple points at once. "Garrett, take the north fence," Ethan said into the radio. "I've got the tunnel." He ran. The drainage tunnel exit was in the basement. Ethan reached it just as the first hostile emerged. He didn't hesitate. He fired twice. The man dropped. The second hostile came through firing. Bullets tore through the concrete wall. Ethan ducked, returned fire, hit the man in the leg. He went down screaming. The third hostile was smarter. He stayed in the tunnel, using the darkness for cover. Ethan grabbed a flashbang from his belt, pulled the pin, tossed it. The explosion lit up the tunnel. The hostiles staggered out, disoriented. Ethan put him down. Upstairs, gunfire echoed through the house. Shouts, screams. Ethan ran back up, his heart hammering. Garrett's voice on the radio. "North fence secured, 4 hostiles down." "Casualties?" Ethan asked. 2 guards wounded, non-critical. "Fall back to the house, secure the interior." "Copy." Ethan reached the main hallway. Cross was there, a pistol in his hand, his face pale but steady. "How many left?" Cross asked. "I don't know, but it's not over." A window shattered. A canister rolled across the floor. Smoke grenade. Ethan grabbed Cross, pulled him back. "Move!" They ran as the hallway filled with smoke. Ethan's eyes burned. He couldn't see, couldn't breathe. Then he heard footsteps. Close. He fired blind, heard a grunt. Someone went down. But there were more. He felt a hand grab his shoulder, spin him around. A fist connected with his jaw. Pain exploded. He stumbled back, tried to raise his weapon. Too slow. The attacker knocked it from his hand, drove a knee into his ribs. Ethan gasped, couldn't get air. Then a gunshot. The attacker jerked, fell. Cross stood there, his pistol smoking. "We're even," Cross said. Ethan nodded, grabbed his weapon. "Let's finish this." They moved through the smoke, clearing rooms, taking down hostiles one by one. It was brutal, chaotic. Nothing like the clean operations Ethan used to run. But it worked. By 3 a.m, the house was quiet. Garrett did a final sweep. 9 hostiles down, 3 captured, 2 guards dead, 5 wounded. It was over. Ethan sat on the front steps, his body aching, his hands shaking. Victoria came out, sat beside him. "You okay?" she asked. No. She didn't push, just sat there. After a while, Cross came out. He looked at Ethan. "Thank you," Cross said. Ethan stood. "Don't thank me. Just make sure this ends. Joe's in custody. Her team's gone. But if there's anyone else out there, anyone who knew about Moscow, you find them. And you make this right." Cross nodded. "I will." Ethan walked to his truck. Victoria followed. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Home. To my daughter." "Ethan." He stopped, turned. "You did good tonight," Victoria said quietly. "So did you." He got in the truck and drove away. The sun was coming up when Ethan reached his apartment. The sky was streaked with orange and pink, the kind of sunrise that made the city look almost clean. He climbed the stairs slowly, every muscle aching, his ribs screaming with each step. The security detail was still outside. One of them nodded as he passed. He unlocked the door, stepped inside. Mrs. Alvarez was asleep in the chair again, her head tilted back, glasses crooked. Ethan walked past her quietly, down the hallway to Lily's room. She was awake, sitting up in bed, her rabbit clutched to her chest, her eyes wide. "Daddy?" He stopped in the doorway. "Hey, sweetheart." "You're hurt." He looked down, blood on his shirt, a bruise forming on his jaw. He'd forgotten. "I'm okay," he said. She didn't look convinced. She climbed out of bed, walked over to him, touched the bruise gently. "Does it hurt?" "A little. I can kiss it better." His chest tightened. "I'd like that." She stood on her tiptoes, kissed his cheek. Then she hugged him, her small arms tight around his waist. "I missed you," she whispered. "I missed you too." She pulled back, looked up at him. "Are you going to leave again?" "No, I'm staying. Promise?" "Promise." She smiled. It was the first time he'd seen her smile in days. Mrs. Alvarez woke up, saw him standing there. She didn't ask questions, just gathered her things and left. Ethan made breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Lily sat at the table, swinging her legs, talking about school, about a drawing she'd made, about a boy in her class who ate glue. Normal things. The kind of things that used to bore him, but now felt like the most important conversation he'd ever had. When they finished, he walked her to school, held her hand the whole way. At the gate, she turned, hugged him again. "Love you, Daddy?" "Love you too, Lily." He watched her run inside, disappear into the crowd of kids. Then he turned and walked home. The apartment felt too quiet. He sat on the couch, stared at the wall. His phone buzzed. Victoria. "How's Lily?" she asked. "Good. Safe." "And you?" "Tired." "You should rest." "I will. Later." He rubbed his eyes. "What's the status on Joe?" "She's alive. In custody. FBI picked her up this morning. They're charging her with conspiracy to commit murder, among other things. She'll be gone for a long time." "Good. The hostiles from last night are talking. Turns out Joe hired them through a private military contractor, the kind that doesn't ask questions. They gave up names, addresses, the whole network. It's over, Ethan." He wanted to believe that, but he'd been in this world long enough to know it was never really over. "What about Cross?" he asked. "He's cooperating with the feds. Turned over everything on the Moscow deal, bank records, contracts, emails. He's facing charges too, but his lawyers think they can cut a deal. And Volkov? Still in the hospital, critical but stable. The doctors think he'll pull through." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "What about Elena?" "She's safe. Cross set her up in a new apartment, far from here. New identity, new life. She wanted me to tell you thank you. She doesn't owe me anything. She thinks she does." He heard something in Victoria's voice. Hesitation. "What is it?" he asked. "I'm leaving New York," she said. "Cross offered me a severance package, enough to start over somewhere else. I'm thinking California. Maybe open my own firm. That's good. You deserve it. I wanted to ask you something first." "Go ahead." "Come with me." He blinked. "What?" "You and Lily. Come to California. Fresh start. No one knows you there. No one's trying to kill you. Victoria, I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other, but I've seen who you are, Ethan. You're a good man, a good father. And I think, she paused, I think we could help each other. He didn't know what to say. You don't have to answer now, she said quietly. Just think about it. I will. Okay. She hung up. Ethan sat there, phone in his hand, staring at nothing. California, a fresh start. No more threats, no more looking over his shoulder. Just him, Lily, and maybe Victoria. It sounded perfect, too perfect. He put the phone down, walked to the window. The city stretched out below, loud and chaotic and familiar. This was home. For better or worse. But maybe home didn't have to be a place. Maybe it could be the people you chose to keep close. The next few weeks blurred together. The FBI closed their investigation. Joe was formally charged and denied bail. The private military contractor she'd hired was shut down, its operators arrested. Cross's legal team worked overtime to minimize his exposure, and somehow the man managed to avoid prison. Fines, probation, a tarnished reputation. But he was still standing. Ethan went back to work at Aurelius. The manager offered him a raise, a promotion to floor supervisor. Ethan declined. He didn't want more responsibility, he just wanted normal. But normal felt different now. He noticed things he hadn't before. The way the light hit the tables during lunch service. The sound of Lily's laughter when he picked her up from school. The quiet moments at night when she was asleep and the city outside went still. He'd spent 2 years trying to bury his past, pretending he could be someone else. But the truth was, he couldn't erase who he'd been. The things he'd done, the people he'd lost, they were part of him. And maybe that was okay. Victoria called every few days. She'd found a place in San Diego, near the beach. She sent photos. Blue water, white sand, palm trees. It looked like a postcard. You should visit, she said during one call. Just for a weekend, see if you like it. Maybe, Ethan said. That's not a no. It's not a yes either, she laughed. Fair enough. 1 month after the attack, Ethan got a call from Cross. I need to see you, Cross said. It's important. They met at a coffee shop in Midtown. Cross looked different, older maybe, worn down. He ordered a black coffee, didn't touch it. The feds are closing the book on Moscow, Cross said. All charges dropped in exchange for cooperation. I'm in the clear. Congratulations. Cross didn't smile. I wanted to thank you for what you did. You already did. No, I paid you. That's not the same as thanking you. Cross leaned forward. You saved my life, Ethan. More than once. I won't forget that. Good. Don't make me regret it. Cross nodded. I'm stepping down. From the company. Ethan looked up, surprised. Why? Because I'm tired. Tired of fighting, tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of being the man everyone wants dead. He finally took a sip of his coffee. I'm selling my shares, setting up a foundation, medical research, education, things that actually matter. That's a big change. Yeah, it is. Cross met his eyes. You inspired it. Watching you. What you gave up. What you risked for your daughter. It made me realize I've been chasing the wrong things my whole life. Ethan didn't know what to say. Anyway, Cross continued, I wanted you to know, and I wanted to give you this. He slid an envelope across the table. Ethan opened it. A check. 7 figures. He stared at it. I can't take this. Yes, you can. Cross, it's not charity. It's payment for services rendered, and it's the least I owe you. Cross stood. Use it however you want. College fund for Lily, new apartment. Hell, move to California with Victoria if that's what you want. Just promise me you'll use it to build something good. Ethan looked at the check, then at Cross. Thank you, he said quietly. Cross nodded, turned, and walked out. Ethan sat there for a long time, staring at the check. He thought about what it could buy. Security, stability, a future where Lily didn't have to wonder if they were poor. But more than that, he thought about what it represented. A second chance, not just for him, but for all of them. That night, he called Victoria. I've been thinking about your offer, he said. And? I want to visit, see the place, see if it feels right. She didn't say anything for a moment, then quietly, "When?" "Next weekend, if that works." "It works." "Okay." "Ethan?" "Yeah?" "I'm glad." "Me too." The flight to San Diego was Lily's first time on a plane. She pressed her face against the window the whole way, pointing out clouds, asking questions Ethan didn't know the answers to. He didn't mind. He just watched her, memorized the way her eyes lit up, the way she laughed when the plane hit turbulence. Victoria picked them up at the airport. She looked different too, more relaxed. Her hair was down, her clothes casual. She smiled when she saw them. "You made it," she said. "We did." Lily hid behind Ethan's leg, shy. Victoria crouched down. "Hi, Lily. I'm Victoria. Your dad and I are friends." Lily peeked out. "Do you live near the beach?" "I do." "Want to see it?" Lily looked up at Ethan. He nodded. "Okay," Lily said quietly. They drove to Victoria's place. It was small, a two-bedroom bungalow a few blocks from the ocean, the kind of place that felt lived in, warm. Lily ran straight to the back door, stared out at the water. "Can we go?" she asked. "After we unpack," Ethan said. "But Daddy—" "After." She pouted, but didn't argue. That evening, they walked to the beach. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Lily ran ahead, her feet kicking up sand, her laughter carried on the wind. Victoria walked beside Ethan, close but not touching. "What do you think?" she asked. "It's beautiful." "I meant about staying." He looked at her. "I don't know yet." "That's fair." They walked in silence for a while. Lily found a shell, brought it to Ethan, her face glowing. "Look, Daddy, it's perfect." He took it, turned it over in his hands. It was cracked, worn smooth by the ocean. Not perfect at all, but beautiful anyway. "Yeah," he said. "It is." They stayed for the weekend. Ethan and Lily explored the neighborhood, ate fish tacos from a stand near the pier, built sandcastles that the tide washed away. Victoria joined them when she could, gave them space when they needed it. She didn't push, didn't ask for promises. On the last night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan and Victoria sat on the porch, watching the ocean. "I talked to a school nearby," Victoria said. "They have an opening for the fall. Good reputation, small classes. Lily would do well there." "You've been planning this." "I've been hoping." Ethan was quiet. The waves crashed in the distance, steady and constant. "I'm scared," he said finally. "Of what?" "Of screwing this up, of letting you down, of letting Lily down." Victoria looked at him. "You won't. You don't know that." "I know you. That's enough." He wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe he could do this. Build something new. Something good. "I need to think about it," he said. "I know." She stood, kissed him on the cheek, and went inside. Ethan sat there alone, listening to the ocean, trying to figure out what the right choice was. 3 months later, Ethan and Lily moved to San Diego. It wasn't an easy decision. Leaving New York meant leaving the only home Lily had ever known. But it also meant leaving the ghost that haunted every corner of their old apartment. The memories of Sarah. The weight of Ethan's past. They rented a place a few blocks from Victoria's. Close enough to visit, far enough to have their own space. Lily started at the new school, made friends faster than Ethan expected. She loved the beach, loved the sunshine, loved the way the city felt lighter than New York. Ethan found work at a veterans outreach center, helping guys like him transition back to civilian life. It wasn't glamorous, the pay was modest, but it mattered. And that was enough. Victoria started her consulting firm, landed a few big clients, built something from the ground up. She and Ethan didn't rush into anything. They took it slow. Dinners, walks on the beach, movie nights with Lily. Building trust, building something real. 1 year after the move, Ethan proposed. Not with a grand gesture or an expensive ring, just the two of them on the beach at sunset, Lily building sandcastles a few feet away. "I don't have much to offer," Ethan said, "but I can promise I'll show up, every day, for you and for her." Victoria smiled. "That's all I need." She said yes. They got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just a few friends, Lily as the flower girl. She took her job very seriously, scattering petals with the precision of a surgeon. Afterward, they went back to the beach, the three of them. Ethan watched Lily chase the waves, her laughter bright and unguarded. Victoria stood beside him, her hand in his. "You ever regret it?" she asked. "Leaving New York?" "No." "Not even a little?" He thought about the life he'd left behind, the violence, the fear, the constant looking over his shoulder. "No," he said again. "This is better." "Even with me?" He looked at her, smiled. "Especially with you." The years passed. Lily grew up, smart, stubborn, exactly like her mother. She talked about college, about studying medicine, about wanting to help people the way Ethan helped veterans. He didn't tell her how proud that made him. He didn't have the words. Cross kept in touch. He sent letters, updates on the foundation, photos of the people his money was helping. He never asked for anything in return, just wanted Ethan to know the work was continuing. Volkov recovered, retired, moved to Miami, bought a boat, spent his days fishing. He sent Ethan a postcard once. Just 2 words. "Thank you." Elena disappeared. New name, new life. Ethan hoped she found peace. Marcus Hale called one day, out of the blue, said he was sober, working construction, trying to rebuild. He asked about Victoria. Ethan told him she was happy. That seemed to be enough. On Lily's 18th birthday, Ethan took her to the beach. Just the 2 of them. She was leaving for college in the fall, chasing her own future. He wanted one last moment before everything changed. They walked along the shore, the sun setting behind them. "You scared?" he asked. "A little. That's normal." "Were you scared when you left your old life?" He thought about the man he used to be, the soldier, the ghost, the father trying to hold it together. "Yeah," he said, "I was terrified." "But you did it anyway." "I had to, for you." She looked at him. "I'm glad you did." They walked in silence for a while, then Lily stopped, turned to face him. "I know you gave up a lot for me," she said. "I know it wasn't easy. It was worth it. I just want you to know." Her voice cracked. "I'm proud of you, Dad." His throat tightened. He pulled her into a hug, held her tight. "I'm proud of you too, Lily." They stood there, the ocean crashing around them, the world stretching out infinite and uncertain. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the kind that came from hiding or running or pretending, but the kind that came from choosing the people you loved over the person you used to be. He'd spent so long fighting, against enemies, against his past, against himself. But the real battle was never about survival. It was about finding something worth surviving for. And he had. Later that night, Ethan sat on the porch with Victoria, watching the stars. Lily was inside, packing for college, her music drifting through the open window. "You think she'll be okay?" Victoria asked. "Yeah, she's stronger than I ever was." "She gets that from you." "She gets that from her mother." Victoria rested her head on his shoulder. "You ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't stepped in that night? At the restaurant?" "Sometimes. And I think I'd still be pouring water, still hiding, still pretending I was someone I wasn't." "Do you regret it?" He thought about everything that came after. The violence, the fear, the moments he thought he'd lost everything. But he also thought about what he'd gained. A family, a future. A chance to be more than the mistakes he'd made. "No," he said. "I don't." Victoria lifted her head, looked at him. "You're a good man, Ethan Cole." "I'm trying to be." "That's enough." She kissed him, soft and certain. And in that moment, Ethan realized something. He'd spent his whole life looking for a mission, something to fight for, something to protect. But the mission was never about the fight. It was about the people waiting for you when the fighting stopped. It was about coming home. And he had. The next morning, Ethan drove Lily to the airport. She was nervous, excited, chattering about her dorm room, her classes, the friends she'd meet. He listened, memorized every word, knowing these moments were numbered now. At the gate, she hugged him tight. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Lily. Take care of Victoria for me." "I will. And take care of yourself." "I will." She pulled back, smiled through tears. "See you at Thanksgiving." "I'll be counting the days." She walked through security, turned back once, waved, then she was gone. Ethan stood there for a long time, watching the crowd, feeling the weight of 18 years pressing on his chest. She was ready. He'd done his job, and somehow that made it harder to let go. He drove home slowly, the city blurring past. When he got back, Victoria was in the kitchen making coffee. "How'd it go?" she asked. "She's gone." "I know. I miss her already." Victoria walked over, wrapped her arms around him. "She'll be back." "I know." They stood there, holding each other, the house too quiet without Lily's music, her laughter, her presence filling every corner. "What do we do now?" Ethan asked. Victoria pulled back, looked at him. "We live. We build. We keep going." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He smiled. "Okay." And they did. Over the years, Ethan and Victoria built a life that looked nothing like the one he'd imagined. There were no gunfights, no conspiracies, no enemies hiding in shadows. Just work, dinners, weekends at the beach, the small, ordinary moments that used to feel like distractions, but now felt like the whole point. Lily came home for holidays, brought friends, eventually brought a partner who made her laugh the way Sarah used to laugh. Ethan liked them, gave his approval without being asked. Cross's foundation grew. It funded research that saved lives, built schools and communities that needed them, turned his empire of greed into something that mattered. He called Ethan once a year, always on the anniversary of the attack. They didn't talk long, just checked in, made sure the other was still standing. Ethan never forgot the man he used to be. The soldier, the ghost, the father clinging to the wreckage of his old life. But he learned to live with it, to carry it without letting it crush him. Because the truth was, he didn't need to erase his past. He just needed to build a future worth more than the mistakes that came before. And he had. On their 10th anniversary, Ethan and Victoria went back to the beach where he'd proposed. The sun was setting, the sky painted in gold and pink, the waves crashing steady and sure. "You happy?" Victoria asked. "Yeah." "You sure?" He looked at her, at the woman who'd seen him at his worst and stayed anyway, who'd helped him build something good out of the ruins of who he used to be. "Yeah," he said, "I'm sure." She smiled, kissed him, and they walked along the shore, hand in hand, the ocean stretching out before them. Ethan Cole had spent most of his life fighting, but in the end, the greatest victory wasn't survival. It was choosing love over fear, family over solitude, a future over a past that wanted to bury him. He'd been a soldier, a waiter, a father, a husband. He'd saved lives, taken lives, lost the people he loved, and found new ones to keep close. And through it all, he'd learned one simple truth. You don't get to choose the battles that find you, but you do get to choose what you fight for. And Ethan had chosen well. He had a daughter who was changing the world, a wife who believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself, a life built on second chances and hard-won peace. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever was, but it was enough. And that, Ethan realized, was everything.